because I kind of want coutil for the cups themselves, I think. Don't I? I think I do. Maybe I don't. Because I think I want them to be padded. Do I? I think I do. Maybe I'm gonna start off somewhere else. So AI images, it's been a thing for quite a while, but it's really accelerated recently. And there are many reasons for this, but I think it's especially the quality of the images that have made them a lot more popular. I am not an expert on this, but I'm gonna try to explain how it works. So in 2014, there was an invention where you had two different algorithms, one trying to generate realistic looking images, one trying to sort of debunk the images that this one created, and they sort of went back and forth, making each of them better. And in 2021, there was a generator called DALL-E, which suddenly started to show very high quality pictures being generated, and I think this spurred on the interest and it sort of made it a big thing all of a sudden. And there are a lot of different generators out there, and I'm going to try to use some of them to generate design for cool looking corsets that fits my aesthetic, and then I'm going to try to create that corset. Yeah. I'm going to try to generate a picture of a corset in a dark academia style. I have just booted up Pixlr. I'm just going to test this one for free. Maybe there are better ones. Please let me know. Corset, dark academia, fantasy style. Okay. Wow. Right. I don't really see this being something I can really make, so ooh. I closed it. That's annoying. Okay. This is kind of cool. It has some leather pieces. There is some lacing kind of stuff up here. Other than that, it's a fairly simple overbust corset. So in terms of the pattern, this is not very advanced or interesting, maybe? I also want to try this one. It's a Microsoft-based image generator, so I'm just going to give it a try with the same prompt. Apparently this is to irresponsible search. Microsoft, really? If I say design, does that help? Okay. These are fairly similar. I think this is something you would have to do in maybe like a Warbler or something. Again, it is so much. If I say librarian corset, okay, I'm gonna try this as well. Again, it's very simple in terms of the pattern. I want to have a bit more input on colors and fabrics and stuff. In case we're getting somewhere. This is kind of cool in the fact that you have several sides to it. Wow, poor girl's face. Now, after using a lot of these to try and generate something cool, I sort of came to the realization that maybe I'm just not good enough at this. Maybe there's a thing where you have to sort of know what you're doing, where you have to feed it the correct information and also maybe pay for the service. So I did not want to make something I didn't really find that cool. So I opted for going on Pinterest and finding AI generated images there, because I think some people are better at this than I am. I've seen the evidence. I know it's out there. Now, after searching a lot, I found two pictures that I really liked and ended up really with one, and that's this one. It's very low quality. It's more like kind of like a thumbnail size, but this is what I'm going to try to recreate. Started off by making a sketch and trying to sort of figure out what different elements I needed and where the different materials would come in and so on, just to kind of create a vision for myself and sort of break it down. And this is sort of what I came up with. It did change a bit as I went along, and I added sleeve eventually, which aren't present in this drawing, but it's sort of the overall idea. So I started off by making a mock-up, and I used 3 different patterns for this. I used a bra pattern, which is called Shelley Bra from Pinup Girls. I used a corset called Emma Breeze from Ojayroom, and I also used a Bolero pattern from Rabbit and Hat Patterns on Etsy. So I tried to sort of combine these, and this took a while, and it was a bit of trial and error, but I feel like I found a good merge of the 3 in total. So I got the fabric, this faux leather, and we have dark teal twill, some black grommets, I have some piping, the same color as the fabric, and I also have some black coutil that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to start off with cutting the coutil. And here are the different elements of this project in the lining. So you can sort of see you have the cup, you have the sort of Bolero top of it, and then more the corsety bodice. So yesterday I was lazy and I did some stuff off camera. Basically, because I keep telling myself that multitasking doesn't affect my productivity, which is absolute hogwash. I finished the leather or faux leather part of the cups, so that's done. I did film parts of it, but not as much as I would have liked to. The AI corset that I'm going for here has a lace trim of sorts on top. So I think maybe I'm gonna glue this down and just attach this whilst top stitching. I'll get back to you on that one. So corset, panels, next. I'll be continuing with the leather parts, which is the front panel or panels, because I'm cutting it in half in the middle just because I want a seam there, and if I want to have a sort of illusion lace up in the front, I feel like dividing it looks more realistic that way. It's sort of what it looks like mid-process, so don't mind that. I was really wondering how to solve the front seam. I kind of feel like it won't be as strong if it's just kind of the seam going down the middle in the front. I think I'm going to sew these right sides together, which is the lining for the front, and then press the seam to one side, and then sew these together, right sides like this, and then press that seam to the other side, and then afterwards sort of like stitch in the ditch to sew the layers together and top stitch. I just feel like that would be stronger. It turned out better than I feared. Usually the case though. Here's the front. So I think it's fine. I think it's stronger than if I just had an open seam in the middle here. So I'm happy about that. That's good. And I'm gonna start cutting the twill. So I'm gonna cut that for the top yoke, the side front panel, and the back panel. I've not yet decided about the back panel exactly how I'm gonna do it. And then I'm going to just start assembling the panel pieces. I think I'm going to use piping. I'm just going to show you guys. So I'll add this in between the seams to sort of have this poking out in between. So yeah, I'm just going to place this along the seam line, and then it should add a nice effect afterwards. I kind of feel like that's more work than it's worth. I like the effects of the piping, but it's a lot more hassle to get in place. I'm gonna have it on the other front panel as well because I want it to be continued up top, but I don't think I'm gonna do it for any of the other panels. It's too much work. I forgot that I had planned to put a strip of leather on the bottom of the twill panels. I don't think I'm gonna fix that at this point. I wish I cared less. So here they are. And of course I'm glad I did it because it does look more accurate and better as a whole. The seam allowance is really thick. I'm not sure if my sewing machine can handle it, but I'm gonna try, and if I break a needle, I break a needle, and if it stops, it stops. Ooh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the reference photo, and on the top of the yoke there is, I think, what is supposed to be a darker leather detail. I cut a panel from this dark brown wool and I just tested sewing that on to the yoke. I think this sort of gives a similar effect, even though it is not the same. Here's the front panel, and I'm just going to baste the piping along this front edge here, and that way I'll get the piping to sort of line up with the panel underneath, which I think will add a nice effect. This will be the front, and I'm just gonna have on the back panel the top in the same fabric, so in the wool. I have prepped the cups slightly, just added some lace and lining, and I think I'm gonna try to attach it to this. It's just going to go like halfway over it, like this. I am basting this because I don't feel like I will be accurate enough if I'm not. And this is kind of the problem at this point, because at this point I usually get quite attached to elements of a project. Like this part right here, I feel it looks kind of cool, and it gets me a bit scared to continue because I don't want to screw anything up and I don't want to kind of ruin potential. I'm guessing that's normal. Probably not just me. There we go. So I put on the lining here. So in order to get this sandwiched between, I'm just gonna press this side and then sew it on with like a top stitch. I'm not sure, but I think after that I'm gonna put in the cups. I'm planning on doing a sort of choker with this, not just like the reference photo, but reminiscent of the reference photo. So what I think I'm going to do is make it independent of this and just have some sort of clasp in the back. I have some lace trim. It's quite narrow. I think I'm going to do strip of cotillion, one strip of lace trim on each side, and use that. I'm just gonna sew on this satin ribbon as well. And I think that is it in terms of the look. And I think this looks accurate enough, at least. I put in one of the cups. And I did not show you guys because this is not one of my favorite things. It's fine enough. I did manage to meet this piping. I will not show you guys the other one either, just because it's just me kind of forcing things a bit and also cursing a bit. I did, by the way, put in a panel here, and that is just because I felt like the front length was a bit short. So I just had to find a solution for that. Now that is the back finished, so the grommets are all in. So this part I'm just gonna lace up firmly closed, and here I'll have boning on each side. So I'm gonna start off with the boning. I think I'll do a combination of boning types. So for the back and the front, I'll do the flat steel, and for the sides, I'll do spiral steel boning. I've been going a lot back and forth on whether or not to have a sleeve for this. On the reference photo, there is like a puff sleeve, and what I think is just like a long sleeve underneath and a buckle. I don't think I'm gonna make long sleeves, mostly because I don't think I have enough of the twill. And I also considered, just instead of doing a leather buckle around the sleeve, I think maybe I'll just make a leather cuff. I've cut the sleeve and I put on some relatively stiff interfacing, and I just want to try to gather this. In the reference photo, the gathers are bigger and stiffer gathers, so I think it might give the effect I want, but I want to test it first. This immediately looks more like I wanted it to. So this is great. So I'm going to do the same for the bottom edge. There is a panel in the front with some lacing, and I have sort of postponed this. This is something I probably should have done in the early stages of the project. Sort of glad I didn't, because if I'd added more in the front here, I think the seam allowance would have been even harder to get through. And the solution that I think I've landed on, that I'm at least gonna attempt, is as follows. I'm going to make a leather panel, and I'm going to just sew that with some lining and try to just kind of top stitch it on top here with the grommets like in the front. I'm having some grommet issues, and that is because I'm out of the small black ones that I use for the back. So I'm just gonna use the bigger ones and use fewer of them, so like 7 instead of 9. Another thing I'm kind of considering is the lace up. I bought some cord online. It is a bit reddish brown. So that was it for this project. I had a lot of fun with this, and I think that AI could be used like a source of inspiration in certain cases. I do not think it can replace human creativity. I think it generates too generic results for that. It is skewed towards one kind of result, one kind of aesthetic, one kind of human appearance, and so on. I was quite happy with being able to replicate the result though, because I feel like this was probably the most complex project so far. So if you like this video, please leave a like below, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. It truly helps a lot, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.